Looks like we've got a good group of people joining us today. Welcome, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our 2024 webinar series on inventory best practices. Today, we're going to be talking about RFID, radio frequency identification. So let's get started. This webinar is the second in a series of webinars related to ID Solutions MOBILETrak Suite. You can catch the WMS webinar on our latest news channel, as well as our YouTube channel, which we'll link you to at the end of the presentation today. Today we're talking about MOBILETrak RFID as it relates to yard inventory, and we'll also touch on a few other applications where the RFID technology applies. Keep an eye on your emails for upcoming webinars on special equipment inventory tracking and for large volume printing with our MOBILETrak print application. I'm going to introduce you to a few members of the Integrity Data Solutions team that make the magic happen behind the scenes. Then I'll turn it over to John to talk in a little bit more detail about what RFID is, how ID Solutions has a role in the RFID space, what our experiences have taught us about inventory tracking with RFID technology, and we'll cover a few resources available, as well as take a few questions at the end of the call. We're going to throw out a few poll questions during this webinar, and we would love your participation. Here's a quick preview to get your mind churning. We're going to ask you about what most interests you about RFID, if you use barcoding or any other automation for your material, if you're currently tracking tools or other assets at your organization, if you ever have yard material that goes missing, and if you've heard about MOBILETrak prior to the webinar registration. Throughout the webinar, we would love to hear your questions. We've packed this call today full of content, so there may be a limited time toward the end for Q&A. But any questions submitted during the webinar will be answered directly after the fact if there isn't enough time to answer during the presentation. Please send those questions in and we will follow up. That's kind of our thing. Dear participants, I would like to introduce you to the MOBILETrak people behind the webinar and today's presentation about RFID. These are the folks involved with the day-to-day, but not the limited influencers involved with MOBILETrak. My name's Amanda Rhodes. I'm the product manager here for our MOBILETrak Suite. Also on the call, you're going to hear from John Tavis, our founder. Behind the scenes includes Eric Johnson, our implementation and support manager, Dylan Bleskin, our sales and marketing manager, Carlos Noguera, our cloud development director, Ethan Chu, our service director, Steve DeGirolamo, our web developer, Erica Iskowitz, our fulfillment manager, and Christian Lentz, our accounting and finance manager. Behind all those folks is also Meryl Matthews, our president and CEO. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John now to talk to you a little bit more about MOBILETrak and RFID.
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate everyone joining us. We're calling here from sunny Arizona, so I know that we have about 30 or so people on the call, so appreciate everyone joining. Like Amanda said, this is our second webinar in a series of 4 this year. Today, I'm really going to be focusing on our MOBILETrak solution as it relates to RFID and how our customers are using it, where we've been in the past, and kind of where we're at now and where we're going in the future. A little bit about us, for those of you who don't know, I know on the call we have some customers that are using our WMS platform, our special equipment, and our MOBILETrak print. I don't know if we have anybody that's using our current or old legacy RFID, but for those of you who don't know a whole lot about us, we are Integrity Data Solutions, like I said, based here in Phoenix, Arizona. We also have a presence in Denver, Colorado. We established the business in 1999 as a customer-focused, value-added, automated identification and data capture solutions provider. We really focus on medical, rural utility, public power, fiber, water distribution, and flooring industries. We're made up of 3 basic segments of our business. One is we are a manufacturer and we do custom design our own barcoding equipment, so barcode scanners for medical diagnostics. We have a division that focuses strictly on material management software, primarily for people like you, so people that are in rural electric cooperatives, public power, water, broadband, communication, with a specific focus on specific ERPs that I'll talk about in a little bit. And then we also are a hardware provider. So for customers that are using barcode solutions or RFID technologies existing and they need more hardware, we are a Zebra OEM, which is our main manufacturer. So we provide a lot of hardware to a lot of different verticals out in the world today. So through those 25 years or so of being in business, and specifically on the materials management side of things, really what we offer as value add, and when I talked about that we were a value added customer-driven company, really this is what makes that happen, especially on the side of our materials management focus, is our integration partners. So for those of you who are potential customers or existing customers, some of these companies on the left here should look familiar to you, and that's for a specific reason. For those of you that are using NISC or a Meridian, the Meridian product, or the UPN, the old Southeast Data product, or the old IXP, formerly Dafron, which is now Millsoft, or anybody in the Midwest who's using PCS, our application suite of MOBILETrak, the fundamental approach to that is that we are integrated with these ERP providers. So really what our focus is to be able to offer material management software that has a bolt-on interface to these platforms. So we also do some customized Google Sheet integration, as well as some really localized custom applications for specific supply chain providers. But primarily our focus is bolt-on integration with these partners. We're growing that. We have a couple of things happening with other ERP providers, but right now these are our 4 or 5. I say or 5 because Meridian actually has 2 different solutions. Go ahead. So where are we at in the country? We're, as a business, we're in every state. As a material management solution provider, we're in almost every state. Kind of see by the map here. We're up to a little over 150 rural utilities, and I say utility, but that's also broadband, telco, water distribution. But as far as the MOBILETrak software and where we're at, we're in just about every state. This is available on our website, so if anybody wants to go on here and grab some references, feel free to do that. If you go to the website and you click on one of those pins, it'll tell you who the customer is. The color of the pin determines what ERP interface they're using. So as an example, all of those red pins are customers that are using MOBILETrak integrated with iView, NISC iView, UPN in blue, Meridian in light blue, so on. So really today, what the focus is like Amanda said, our first webinar was really on material management, specifically and mostly looking at the warehouse and the 4 walls and the product or the material that's within those 4 walls. Today, what our focus is going to be on is really on RFID, and I'm gonna use that acronym a little bit loosely because for most of you that know about RFID, you're probably thinking of 1 of 2 technologies. We're thinking of it more as 4. We're going to walk through kind of the evolution of where we started, why we started with RFID, what the specific use case was for it, and then how it kind of developed into what it is today. But really the basic concept of RFID, and what most of you are probably aware of, is it's comprised of a couple different components, right? You have a fixed RFID reader. That reader is looking out for RFID tags. There's different types of technology for those tags, but the reader sends out a signal and picks up the tag. We then take that tag and the specific RFID tag number, and we assign that to some material, and then we ultimately track what's happening with that material, where it's going, if it's coming in and out of a location. where is it in my yard, etc. And then we display that on our application and provide specific information that's useful to you as an organization to help you keep track of your inventory, ultimately make really good buying decisions on that material. So that's what we're going to focus on today. Go ahead. So in our world, when we talk about RFID and specifically really our evolution as a product, it really comes down to two different types of RFID technology: a passive RFID technology and active RFID technology. The main real difference is that on a passive is that we do not have power in the tags. So we have an RFID tag that's got a little chip in it. Basically, it allows the reader to excite that chip, and then we can then read that tag and then do something with it. I'm going to kind of read through some of this stuff, and then I'll talk about it. But just to kind of go through it, no internal power source. So the passive RFID tags do not have their own power source, such as a battery. Instead, they rely on electromagnetic energy transmitted from an RFID reader. Because of this, we do have a limited range, right? RFID tags rely on energy from the reader, and our range in our current technology or our legacy technology on passive tags was probably around 20 to 25 feet. And it also had some limitations on storage. With the active RFID, this is more if you all are familiar with or live in an area that has toll roads. If you have like the fast pass and you drive through at 60 or 70 miles an hour, they're reading the tag of the vehicle for the fast pass. That's an active RFID technology. So an active RFID tags contain their own internal power source, typically a battery. This allows them to continuously broadcast their signal to activate in response to a signal from the reader. We get much more range. If you're, again, familiar with the fast pass, you're talking 60, 70 feet, going at 60, 70 miles an hour. To give you an example or a comparison, the active RFID technology that we're going to talk about today, specifically is Bluetooth Low Energy. We can get up to about 50 meters, 150 feet. That's kind of an assignment of data. It's really quite a bit longer than that. In some of our examples I'm going to talk about today, we're getting 400 to 500 feet. So that's the difference between the two. Go ahead. So just about some of the technology, UHF, this is our using our old passive technology. So ultra high frequency is a type of RFID technology that operates in the UHF spectrum, typically between 300 megahertz and 3 gigahertz. It's widely used for various applications due to its ability to read tags at a greater distance and faster speeds compared to other RFID technology. Now, the other RFID technology that you might be familiar with is like near contact. This would be like an RFID tag that you would use to open a gate, right, or open a door, a secure door. That's actually like near contact or contact. UHF provides us with extended range up to about, like I said, 20 to 25 feet, depending upon line of sight, depending upon placement. Some of the key features is that we do have a larger read range. It's not just near contact. Fast data transfer. We can read tags, a high population of tags very quickly, and we can store more data on the tag. Yeah, go ahead. So Bluetooth, this is what we're using in our new version, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, our new version of MOBILETrak RFID. But Bluetooth Low Energy, also known as Bluetooth Smart, is a wireless communication technology that's part of the Bluetooth 4.0 spec. And later, it's designed for low power consumption, making it ideal for battery-operated devices that need to operate for long periods. So really what we're talking about is an RFID tag that contains a battery. Our typical use case, typical BLE tags, or what we call beacons, typically last between 5 to 7 or even up to 10 years. It does operate on very low power. We're only reading it at certain or at controlled intervals. So like I said, the battery can last up to 10 years. Very efficient on the data transmission, so we can read, like, again, large populations of tags, which we'll kind of talk about. And it's interoperable, right? So if I have a mixture of manufacturers of RFID tags or BLE beacons and a mixture of different BLE gateways, I can operate that interoperable with all those different devices. Some of the benefits, very energy efficient, obviously, very simple. Traditional active RFID tags were very expensive, which were prohibited for the type of application that we are installing in. The BLE tags are very inexpensive, relatively speaking. When I say relatively speaking, they're just a little bit more than the longest range UHF or passive tags. So very cost effective, extremely flexible. Go ahead. So the evolution of our product, I'm going to tell kind of a small story here, but one of our MOBILETrak customers for WMS down in Florida came to us about 10 years ago and said, hey, we have a use case. We have a very large compound, very large yard, full of poles and transformers and cross arms, and we want to do a better job of tracking that material. So it's not within the four walls. People have access to it. Crews have access to it at any time throughout the day or night. They have crews coming in and pulling that material and taking it out, and no one has any idea of what's occurring. So they challenged us to create an application using RFID, to which we did. The original requirement from the customer was they wanted to be able to make it simple. They wanted to be able to open up an application, click on a button, and see their entire yard inventory and compare it to what their on-hand quantities were and provide some variance to that, so they knew if something was missing. Further, they wanted to be able to realize or recognize when those tags came into the compound or left through their gates. So as you know, that's what they wanted, which we could have provided, but it would have been really, really expensive to do so, right? So again, this is about 12 years ago, actually, not 10 years ago. And so we kind of settled on what is now considered our MOBILETrak RFID Gatekeeper and Pole Vault solutions. So Gatekeeper was designed to capture material as it moves in and out of the utility, really without any human interaction, right? So capturing this, you're collecting this data on stuff coming in, going out, and without anybody actively doing anything. So that was the challenge. So it's really designed to be more, like it says, Gatekeeper. It's a fixed reader technology that is mounted at a gate that is connected to the local area network and is powered with physical power. And then we have some antennas that are mounted to a pole. And then as tags come in and out of those or pass in and out of those gates, we're reading that tag, realizing the assignment from the tag to the asset, and then doing something with it, okay? Pole Vault was a supplement to Gatekeeper, and it still is. We consider both of those our MOBILETrak RFID legacy product, and they're still available today. We still have customers that are on it. But Pole Vault was really designed to be a reconcile of the gate reader system. It then turned into and became more of a cycle counting function. So Pole Vault RFID is a handheld-based solution designed to work as an inventory or actual physical or cycle count solution. So if you can imagine, we're tracking assets as they come in and out of the yard. If the fixed readers misread or get a bad read or don't read or just can't see a tag, Pole Vault was designed for someone to take a handheld, an RFID mobile device, and walk around the yard and take a cycle count. I'm saying cycle count. Some customers were doing full physicals, but for some of these yards, they're pretty large, right? It would take days to do a physical count, even though you're just wanding this mobile device past the assets. So typically we would do a cycle count. Fast forward to January of 2024, this year, we released our V2 or version 2 of MOBILETrak RFID. And it's really kind of a combination of both of those. However, it's really getting rid of all of that human interaction, right? So at the gate, as well as in the yard, doing those cycle counts, and now full physical inventories without a human being doing that, right? So it's a browser-based hybrid application, meaning that we use a browser technology, so it's a smart web page. it uses the cloud to pass the tag data from the reader back to our cloud instance, and then it talks to and works with a on-premise database, an application server that runs locally at the customer, which provides us with that ERP integration, right? So the same ERP integration for part numbers, descriptions, purchase order numbers, quantities on hand, all of that information that means something to you. We're actually integrating this product with those same ERPs using the same ERP integration technology. So again, it's actually been 12 years, but we'll call it 10 years. So Gatekeeper is specifically engineered to seamlessly monitor and document the movement of materials entering and exit the yard, ensuring accurate and efficient tracking with no need for human intervention. Pole Vault, again, is the handheld solution which allows us to reconcile those counts, perform cycle count inventories, ultimately sending that data back to the ERP and providing ourselves with some variance information if we're missing or if we're over on our counts. Like I said, it's our legacy solution. We still support it. We still sell it. There is still a use case for it. So where does this product shine? It allows us to automatically receive assets from certain, I'll say certain, supply chain providers. There are some supply chain partners that we have that will slap an RFID tag onto an asset prior to shipment, which allows us through some technology to receive that material as it arrives. It has a really good method for assigning RFIDs to assets, both for existing inventory and new inventory coming in. It has a really good use for historical data. We can do some charge outs and returns based on movement of assets as they come in and out. It's still those transactions are also integrated back to the ERP. We can put RFIDs on trucks. There's a couple different reasons why we'd want to put RFID on trucks. And we also have some good exporting tools. Some of the challenges of this, why did we go from this and migrate to BLE technology, really is primarily the technology has finally caught up to us. It's allowed us to move in this direction. Technology has provided that. But the specific challenges were the complexity of the infrastructure. To put in a passive RFID solution at our customers was a pretty big lift in the eyes of our customer as well as us. There are some pretty big implementation resource requirements that are needed. The new version of MOBILETrak, which I'm going to go into in a second, basically eliminates all of that. So if any of you folks have talked to us in the past about RFID or have considered it, and we've talked about our legacy application, or you went onto our website and seen some information on it, those are the things that are going to keep you away or are going to really make you think about putting in an RFID solution. It's not something that you, in the past, would be able just to go by and then quickly set up and start using. Those were the biggest challenges that we faced. Go ahead. So just to give you some illustration on what that legacy solution looked like, don't go into the video yet. Let me just kind of explain some of these images here. So of the four images on the right, the top left image, this is a utility out in Florida, a fairly large utility. When they wanted to implement RFID, their basic idea was they wanted to be able to capture assets as they came in and left the yard. And this is the gatekeeper part of it. This is what tracks that and how we track it. Basically, we had to have their facilities people sink that giant galvanized pole in the ground. Kind of on the lower part of that pole, you see a box. The picture to the right of that is what's inside that box and the complexity of what really we're doing, which is a fixed RFID reader, which is then connected via Ethernet back to their local area network. And then kind of in the little outlet you see there, the outlet receptacle, we had to run power to that. And then there's some coax cables that come out of that black box in the middle and route up that pole to those antennas you see on the top. So all of that stuff is required to make this solution work. So very expensive, time-consuming, customer resource requirement. The image in the bottom left is an image of our pole vault function, where we're actually taking a mobile device and walking out in the yard and, you know, wanding, for lack of a better word, I don't want to use the word scanning because that implies barcode scanning. They're wanding this device and its antenna over the RFID tags in order to make that capture. I'm going to have Amanda click on this video. This is a video that was taken about 8 or 9 years ago at a utility here in Arizona. And what this gentleman is doing is that he's holding that RFID mobile device. I realize it's a little bit choppy. All these videos are available on our YouTube channel. But basically what he's doing is he's running our pole vault application, and he's reading those tags via that mobile device. The tag is that little white label that's on the butt end of that pole. And as he's capturing that, he's capturing the unique RFID identification number, the tag ID, and then we're matching that to an assigned part number within their ERP and in their material. And then we're sending that data back to a database over the Wi-Fi, and then running it through that ERP integration, allowing us to find out what our variances are. What's important about that video is number one, it's taking a person to do it, right? The second thing is that, whoops, did we lose you?
All right. I'll fix that.
Bear with me. Just had a loss of screen here. There we go. Let's go back. Okay. So again, the two things to take away from that video is, one, it's a human being that's actually working that data collection, and then the second part is he's only capturing a small part of the yard. Now that particular customer was fairly small. We'll show some images here in a bit of larger yards, but we're limited to, you know, we could spend all day out there, but our customers aren't going to do that, right? So that's another one of those limiting factors. Now down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen there, those are the components again, right? So the little, Amanda, can you kind of hover over with your mouse the tag itself? Yeah. So that tag you're looking at there, that's a long-range passive RFID tag. To give you some comparison and scale, that's about the size of like an iPhone Pro maybe. So it gives you an idea of the size. That is typically adhered to an asset with either like a back-to-back tape, or if it's like a pole, we can screw it in through those little bullet holes. But that's an example of a passive RFID tag. The mobile device there, for those of our customers that are using MOBILETrak WMS, that is basically the same device. The only difference is that it has a built-in RFID antenna and an application that allows us to read RFID tags. The big box in the middle there that says Zebra, that is the fixed reader, right? And then top left of that image is the enclosure that we use. It's a sealed enclosure. And then the image on the right there is the antenna. So just for comparison, for investment, for those of you who are interested, for one gate, which would normally have 2 poles with 2 different readers, as you can kind of see in that bottom right image there, it's kind of hard to see the one on the left, but that's a gate setup with 2 RFID readers in it. Just the hardware part of that is probably around $7,500, right? That just gives you some scope on what that looks like. All right, go ahead. Next. All right, so what is V2 and what are we doing with it? So we've shifted, like I said earlier, the technology was prohibitive in the past for both cost and some other reasons. So now we shift into the future, into 2024, and we've started using or utilizing VLE technology in the use of beacons, right? So MOBILETrak V2 is a locally hosted browser-based hybrid. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a mix of different technologies. So it's a smart web page, an on-premise database, and then cloud data transfer for for the tag ID. It's utilizing the standard partnerships with our industry-leading ERPs, like I mentioned earlier, NISC, Meridian, IXP, PCS, etc., to really capture yard data. The biggest difference between the old version and V2, other than the technology, is what we're providing. So as a best practice, right, the reason we call this best practices is this technology allows us to do instant yard asset counts. So unlike that little video we watched, this technology allows us to place RFID readers, fixed readers, throughout the yard because of the price. It allows us to do that. It's a low-cost solution. So it allows us to have instant yard asset counts for the entire yard as opposed to cycle counting, and we don't need a person to do it. These are basically devices that we can scatter throughout the yard that have enough range through the beacons that we use to capture the full yard. So the solution, again, provides instant yard asset counts. It also allows us for very easy and quick RFID tag assignment. So if you're worried about implementing an RFID solution and you already have a ton of stuff in your yard and you're worried about tagging that, the V2 provides a really simple way to do that. It provides us with a much larger bandwidth of support. So because the data activity is over the cloud, it allows us to have like kind of instant access to our customers if there's issues. With those instant yard asset counts, we can give you live variances. It's a very simple infrastructure, and we'll talk about that in a second. And that lack of implementation resource requirement is really another big thing that's important. So if you were to compare the old system, the old legacy system to the new, where we had all that equipment to install and management overhead and customer resource requirements, all that is kind of thrown out the window, and now here we are with a technology that we can literally configure remotely, send out to our customers, to which they can install. So it's very, very simple, way less expensive, and a whole lot easier for a whole lot less resource requirement from the customer standpoint. So again, just kind of a little slide about our architecture. From the reader, we call it an aggregator, but that gateway, that tag reader that you're looking at there, we'll talk a little bit more about this device specifically. But from that reader is connected through GPS, connected to the cloud via cellular that we manage for the customer. You don't have to manage the data agreement for that. We manage that. So from the reader over the cloud, back through our application layer, and then back towards the ERP, all pushing that information down to an application that is very user-friendly and allows you to make some really quick and easy decisions on what you have in your inventory, what you need to buy, where is it, etc. How are we doing on time? 26 minutes left. Okay. I want to make sure I leave some time for questions. So what does that integration get us, right? What does that real-time integration look like in the application? So this is a screenshot of the pole vault function. We still call it pole vault. However, instead of having that human being that's out there, wanding with a mobile device and only capturing a small segment of our inventory, we're able to look at everything all at once. So what can we see? We can see we can see the tag ID, which then is assigned back to an item number that's in your ERP. Its description. It allows us to see what warehouse and filter what location that we're looking at. So if we want to look at all of our locations or one of our locations, if we have multiple, it provides us with an on-hand count. If you see in that little orange box that's highlighted there, the on-hand quantity is the quantity of tags that we're reading as it's tabulated. So in other words, for that first part number that ends in 90101, we have 17 tags that are assigned to that part number. So we give you the part number, the description, what location I'm in, how many of those active RFID tags am I reading, and then I'm going to compare that to the system count, and then I'm going to give you a variance, whether it's positive or negative or zero, right? We can then also see what that, when we read it, the date and the time, which allows us to have that real-time variance reporting. So You can imagine how valuable this information is. At any point during the day, based on how we configure it, we can provide instant access to information on your inventory and you know, how many you have and how does that compare to what your system count is. And if there's any kind of variance, we can tell you when it was last read, and we can also tell you what gate it left from. There's some other information on that page down below, things like, okay, if there is a variance, what tags are missing? What do we see that's missing, and when was the last time it was read? What part number is that, etc. Go ahead. So again, live snapshots of the entire yard. See the entire yard inventory in real time, pulled live from the aggregator. So I'm going to illustrate this here in a minute, but in our customer setup, you have a yard that's maybe, or an area that we're trying to cover that's maybe 10 or 20 acres. I can cover that in, you know, a fairly small number of aggregators, and we grab all that data from all those aggregators at specific points in time as we configure it, and we gather all that information up, and then we massage it, compare it back to what you should have, and then display that, right? So that's the variance reporting via the back-end ERP integration. Some kind of leftover artifacts is that we have consistent login information, meaning that whatever ERP partner that you have or that you're using, we maintain the login credentials for that. So if you're an iView customer, if you log into iView with an iView user or a mapped user, you would do the same thing with iView. Same thing with UPN, same thing with Meridian, etc. And all of this leads to better buying decisions. Really, that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to prevent ourselves from either running out of something or buying too much. As we all know, supply chain is getting better, but still a mess. These kinds of technologies and applications help us make those better buying decisions. All right, so getting into some of the hardware specifically, we have a couple different options, but this is our primary. So we have a partner in Sensata Technologies. Specifically, we're using their XT4964 aggregate reader. It's a BLE gateway. Some of the things that are really, really great about this product is what it does and how it does it and what the cost of it is. So this is maybe half the price of the traditional fixed reader. It has a much smaller footprint. If you see in the highlights there, it's got sustainable solar power. So that little black, what looks like a display is not a display, it's actually a solar panel. So it has either wired power, physical power, or solar power that uses energy harvesting. So it pulls energy from the sun, and then it goes to sleep. We wake it up on intervals, go do a bunch of reads, and then shut it back down. While it shuts back down, it's reharvesting that data. It's optional in Bluetooth. Really, really efficient with power. It's IP68 rated, so it's designed to go, you know, in rugged, weathered environments. This is a gateway that's mounted on several 100,000 FedEx vehicles, Maersk shipping containers, all the above. So this is something that's designed to really take a beating. Some of the other things that it allows us to see if we have a GPS and cellular connection. Everything is OTA over the air. We can do firmware updates, configurations, all of the stuff we can do over the air that we manage. So like I was mentioning earlier about the improved support that this allows us. We have customers that are in Atlanta. We have customers that are in Arizona. We have customers that are in Florida. From our desk here in Arizona, we can update firmware. We can send down new configs. We can do all that OTA, which makes it really helpful and really improves our support. And then some of the optional, you know, different interface connections. I will mention there it says digital I/O, different digital I/O. What that allows us to do is we can control through this device. We can control some signals, some electric signals that are beneficial for things like opening a gate, as an example, which are some of the things we'll talk about here in just a few. Go ahead. And then the beacons. So let's talk about the beacons. So this would be the replacement in the passive RFID environment, that passive RFID tag I showed you earlier. There's a bunch of different types of these. There's a bunch of different options out there for these. I'm going to mention two that we partnered with, a couple of really good organizations. Again, Sensata, they're the manufacturer of our fixed reader or aggregator. They make a tag that is probably the lowest of the cost of really all of them, unless we're doing like non-ruggedized tags. But this is kind of like the size of a hockey puck, I would say, maybe a little bit smaller. But it's really good for mounting on something like a transformer, maybe a cross arm, or a reclosure, some of that special equipment you guys are familiar with. This is a really good tag for that. Some of the highlights for this one is, like I said, all of these are externally powered, so they have batteries. What we really like about this tag is that we can replace the batteries over time. So if you were using a tag on, say, a transformer and you wanted to reassign that tag, as an example, we have a customer here in Arizona that has this tag on transformers, and before it leaves, if a crew comes in to take it, they actually remove the tag and then reassign it. Most of our customers don't do that. Most of our customers leave that tag on for the life of the asset. But if you wanted to, you could do that, and you could replace the battery. So if you had something that was out in the field for 5 years, it came back, and you wanted to reassign it to a different asset, you could open up the back panel and swap out the batteries. Very rugged, versatile mounting. We can mount this pretty much anywhere. You see the little bullet holes. We can drive screws, into a pole, or we can use back-to-back tape to adhere it. There's a couple different options for that, and it lasts a really long time and 100-meter range. So we've seen even better than that. We'll kind of talk about that through some examples next. And then also one of our partners is EM Micro. This tag is a really unique tag because it's size. So it's depending on how big your screen is that you're looking at this presentation, that's fairly to scale. So the round part, that's called a tombstone tag. The little round part on the in this case the bottom, from this perspective, the bottom round part, that's just the size of a watch battery. So if you're familiar with like a typical watch battery, that's the size of it. So to give you some scale, again, this is IP67 rated. It's sealed. You can put this out pretty much on anything. It's very small, very rugged, very cost effective, extremely good range for the size, and a really long lifespan. So between those two tags, there are some other options, but these are the two tags that we're focusing on, primarily because of these highlights. Go ahead. So to give us an idea of some of our early successes, I'm going to walk through a couple of different customers. I feel that this is helpful in kind of demonstrating and illustrating in a real-world capacity what this looks like, kind of what we provide and how we do it. So this customer, being that they're fairly local, they're about half an hour outside of metropolitan Phoenix. Because of their localness, we were able to go out on site and set this up for them. But if you look at that little box in the left-hand side that has the key on it, it's kind of hard to see, but that's a satellite aerial shot of their compound or their yard. What they wanted to capture were all those within the little blue box, the highlighted blue box, all those pad mount and pole mount transformers, right? So there's a bunch of special equipment in the bottom of the image from this perspective, all the way to some larger 75 kVA, 25 kVA transformers towards the top. And what we did was we went out there, we have 6 of those little aggregators, right? Those 6 being highlighted by the little orange dot. The orientation is illustrated by the little, signal strength beacon there. And in their environment, we mounted these on one of our we manufacture our own accessories for this. So it's mounted via that little mounting plate, and it's simply mounted on the I-beam of one of their building structures. Now, if you look at that image in the little 4-image box there, the top left, you see how it's mounted up there onto that I-beam. You notice you don't see any cables to it. right? You don't see any data cables, you don't see any power cables. So this is really another one of these big, huge benefits that we see out of this new technology, is that we can literally take one of these things, charge it up from scratch, send down its configuration over the air, and then we can deliver it to our customers and they can mount it. They mounted this themselves using one of their service bucket trucks and then also a man up on a fork truck. It says 6 hours, but it only took 6 hours because they realized they wanted to mount a pole in their yard, and so that's the only reason it took 6 hours. But there's about 350 asset tags mounted on those on the image there of those transformers that you see, and with those 6 readers, without any data and out any power, again about 4 hours to install. We're able to capture all of those reads in real time at intervals up to 15 minutes. We're capturing that information every 15 minutes. So then we're displaying that on our application, giving them their variances. So if somebody comes in and grabs one of those, we're going to notice it within 15 minutes. Next one. Similarly, there's another utility here in Arizona that we have here to kind of show. Same thing, you see the box. We only have 4 of the readers there. They have a little bit more tags, 370. It took a little bit longer to install this one because we actually helped them mount the tags on the assets. So just to give you some idea of what that looks like. The thing I wanted to point out in this slide is that you see in the top right-hand corner, the gentleman standing on the ladder, mounting it on that pole. That's physically mounted, permanently mounted. And then if you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it's not the best image, but it's actually sitting on a tripod. So they can move these RFID readers around as they modify their yard, right? So as they get more material, or they lose more material, or they move it around, they can take these aggregators and they can move them around themselves as that changes. I'm going to have to rip through this. We're getting kind of low on time.
Yeah, we're going to have 12 minutes.
Okay, so just to give you an idea, this is an animated little GIF here, this image on the left. Basically what you're seeing is the functionality of the pole vault. So what's happening is we're going into the pole vault function. We're clicking the scan beacon button that's on the right, if you click on the right, which basically initiates our read. Once it's done reading and aggregating all that tag data and grabbing all the information from the back end ERP, it's going to throw up a success message. In this case, you see it read 372 tags, and then it's going to dump that information into our dashboard, showing the customer what their count is versus what they actually should have, and then reporting those variances. All of this information, by the way, is archived. So every time we do one of these reads, we're archiving this information, which we can either go back and retrieve later through a little calendar applet, or we can automatically send email with this report back to whoever needs it. Go ahead. I mentioned the tag assignment. One thing I didn't really mention that I'll mention now is that you're looking at an image of the application running on a desktop or a laptop. This is a cross-platform application because its nature of being a smart web page. So we can run this on any device that has a modern browser. So if you wanted to take a tablet and go out in the yard and capture a real-time read, you could do that on a tablet. You could do it on your cell phone if you want. Anything with a modern browser will work. But with that being said, I can also do the other functionality. Here's where we're using a barcode scanner, whether it's a tethered barcode scanner or a Bluetooth barcode scanner, to scan the barcode on the beacon, the little BLE RFID tag, and matching it up with a item number within our ERP, right? So we can very quickly assign this information and make that assignment between the RFID tag and the asset itself. There's a couple other ways to do it. We can actually use the RFID reader to capture that information, but because our tags come with a barcode, the Sensata tag has a one-dimensional barcode. The EM Micro tag has a really nice QR code. We can simply scan those tags, assign it to a part number, and then click assign, and we're done. It's really, really quick, really, really easy. just some of the applications and how we use RFID, whether it's legacy or whether it's the new technology in V2. At the gate, we can read stuff as it comes in and goes out. We can then make decisions on what to do with that information, like if we want to expense that or charge it out to a work order or to a GL. We can do that through our application. We present the data, and then allow you to do things like charge outs through the ERP, just like in the MOBILETrak WMS. We can do the same thing. We can also transfer if you have multiple locations and a tag goes out one gate and it's seen at another location's gate. We present that information, and so that you can make a decision if you want to permanently transfer that. And we can also return it. So if we expense something out, it goes out for a couple days and it comes back, we can then return it. And then on the pole vault side, again, we can do full or cycle count yard snapshots. We can provide instant variance reporting, and we can do that whenever. Right now it says daily or multi-daily counts. Currently, in all of our installations on V2 right now, we're running either at 15-minute intervals or 30-minute intervals, which I think that most of you would agree is plenty frequent enough. I don't think anybody needs that information any quicker than that. If we go any quicker than 15 minutes, then we're going to start using up the energy that's harvested from the solar panel, and we would want to wire it hardwire. Go ahead. Just some of the other things that we can do with RFID. This says caught at the gate. We have another module of RFID that allows us to put an RFID tag on or a beacon on a vehicle, like you see in the image. And then with that, we can do a bunch of different things, right? We can assign the tag to the truck, and then we can, like I said earlier, with those input outputs, I can send from the reader a signal to the gate to where I can open that gate. So instead of driving up to the little near contact RFID panel and wiping your badge over it to open the gate, we can actually read the tag before the truck even enters the compound and open that gate if it's authorized. Some of the other things that we can do with vehicles, in fact, I just had a customer ask me about this this morning, is that we can track tools or assets on that vehicle, right? So if I have that 4964 gateway, that RFID reader that I mentioned earlier that we put on those structures in the yard, I can actually mount that into a little vehicle mount cradle and mount it to my vehicle. And now I have a real-time visual of where that vehicle is, and I can beacon that vehicle and any BLE beacons that are on it, right? So if I have a bunch of meters, if I have a service transformer, if I have tools, whatever I may have on that vehicle, I can track that as it's traveling with that. So if it's gone, I can let someone know, hey, it's gone. If it's on it, if I need to know like how many of something that I have, I can do that. The customer today, their use case was meters. They wanted to be able to track meters on the vehicle. Go ahead. Again, automate the counts. The big takeaway here is, the technology in legacy was great, and the use case for it was really good. The downsides were we could only do a part of the warehouse or part of the yard, and it took someone to do it. V2 eliminates that. We can now provide, and automate real-time full yard snapshots of your inventory within a 15-minute interval. Go ahead. I talked a little bit about tag assignment. One of the services that we do is that we can pre-assign RFID tags. I mentioned earlier that if you have a vendor, like as an example for those down in the Southeast, if anybody's on the call, if you're familiar with Gresco, they will do it. They're a partner of ours. If you order transformers from Gresco as an example, they will put a tag on there for you, and they work with us electronically through some ASN and EDI data transfer, where we can receive that asset as it arrives, or we can do the pre-assignment for you. So if you purchased MOBILETrak RFID and we felt it was okay for you guys to install it because your yard location is fairly small, you could send us your item information, the description, and the quantities, and we can assign those tags for you, so that when you got the readers and the tags, you could literally put them up yourself and start using the application. We have a customer up in Delaware that's actually doing that right now. Again, just to kind of wrap up some of what we really like about this technology. Power options. It's solar. I don't have to run power to this device. I can if I want, but I don't have to. It's cellular, right? I don't have to run a data cable. I can put this thing anywhere I want, and as long as I have cellular, connectivity, I can talk to this device. In the days of the legacy platform, and as I mentioned earlier, it's a pretty big investment of time and dollars for a legacy customer to put an RFID solution in place. That is quickly diminishing, right, because of this type of technology. As far as how we mount it, just like we had in some of those images, we can either mount it on a mounting plate. That's just the one that we manufacture. There's several other options. There is, like I said, there's a vehicle cradle that you can mount it on a vehicle. You could also use that cradle to mount on some other substrate, or you can do something like a tripod. There's really, really no limit to the, if you want to get really creative, but those are the ways that we do it. Again, I did talk about how this is a cross-platform, so it's device agnostic. We don't really care what device you're using or what size it is. As long as it's a modern browser, we can run this application, and it's connected to the local area network. So I guess these are the last few. How much time I got? 4 minutes? Okay, I'm going to rip through this pretty quick. But again, with best practices, right? Our job as a vendor for our customers and a solution provider is to really provide a solution that assists them in managing this material. So if we pair RFID and the functionality with our warehouse management solution, we can then really get track of our material information by doing transactions automatically in real time with real-time information back to our ERP backend. And some of these transactions are like work orders, receiving, inventory, charge outs, returns, transfers, requisitions, etc. I'm not going to go through these. Running out of time here. So if anybody's interested in coming and seeing us in the next few months, this is kind of where we're going to be. I'm going to be at an area conference for those of you who are calling in from Alabama. I know we have some Alabama people. I'm going to be out at Baldwin EMC as part of a kind of a round table, I guess you would call it. I think I might be giving a small presentation, but I'll be out there on June 20th. It's at 10 o'clock. So if you're part of that, come look me up. We're also going to be at the Meridian Apex conference a few days after that. So for those of you who are using Meridian and are in Atlanta at that time, I'm gonna have a booth. So I'll have some of this technology available to kind of play with and kind of take a hands-on look at it. And then myself and Amanda are going to be down in Texas so if we have anybody from Texas here, if you are a partner with Texas Electric Cooperatives, we're going to be July 1st to the 3rd. We're going to be out at a conference there. Same thing, showing the same technology, both our WMS, RFID, special equipment inventory, and our print function. We will be sending out at the conclusion of this some information to the attendees. So we'll send you some links for some of our social media, our LinkedIn page, which has our latest updates, news on our latest installations, some of our marketing materials, etc. So, we encourage you and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. Dylan Bleskin, our marketing manager, is the one who manages that. So he does a really good job of keeping everybody up to date on what we're doing. We'll also send some links to our website. We have some really good resources on there, like some of our case studies, etc. And then finally, we'll send a link to our YouTube channel, which I think is a really good tool and resource for either existing customers or new customers. There's some really good videos on kind of like marketing videos for MOBILETrak as a suite, but it also has some really good instructional videos, and we split that up by the playlist based on who our ERP selection is. So feel free to browse any of those.
We did not get a whole lot of time today for question and answer. There were a few in the chat, and they were answered in real time in text.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and include those in the list of resources that we're going to send out after this demonstration.
Perfect.
So thank you to all of you that participated in the polls and asked some great questions in the Q&A section. We appreciate it. There's a lot of information to deliver today, so.
Yeah, and I apologize that we kind of ran maybe a little bit late and that we only had an hour. We will go ahead and make sure, everybody that's on this webinar, along with the other invites, will get an invite to our next one next quarter, which I believe is going to be on special equipment inventory. So look for that in the next coming weeks or months. That'll probably be in September, maybe sometime in that time frame, late August, early September. So with that, thank you everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. Appreciate our customers, our prospects, our partners. Look forward to hearing some more questions from anybody. We'll make sure that we have our contact information available so you guys can reach out to us. But with that, thank you very much, and everyone have a great rest of your week. Take care.